subject never came up. There were no stories, no accounts of service, nothing to help him admire the old man. The attendants shared their marijuana and dug their boots into the gravel as they listened. After 2 deep tokes, Rick glanced back at the figures outside the funeral home and said that he should get going. Yep, they were off already. Then, to their embarrassment, he began to cry. He wiped his eyes with the heels of his hands and said that he didn't understand why he was crying, because he didn't. No, he never had loved the old man. It wasn't either that he hated him. Luis was difficult to be with, difficult to like, difficult to love. And when you're young, aren't you supposed to be unconditionally loved? Just loved without having to earn or deserve it. Rick looked across the parking lot for an answer and found a colorless prospect of tract houses, a scuffed sky, low-slung telegraph cables. When they drove away, he said that would be it. Finito. No reason to return. The attendants shifted back on their heels and said, yeah, they supposed it went something like that. Luis Francesco Hernandez was buried without the family in attendance. Before Luis, by 18 years, came Clark, who'd had most of his tongue cut out and his voice box removed. Matthew Clark died unattended in a private room at the BVM hospice in Albany. Allergic to penicillin, his throat sealed and he choked. A simple clerical error. 5 minutes inattention. His funeral at the St. Eustace Crematorium was small but attended by people who expected a more miserable demise and were now faced with something sudden and inexplicable. Clark's daughter Elizabeth eulogized her father as an uncomplicated man and passed over the details of his absences, how he would up and go without incitement, and how as a child she was convinced he had another family somewhere, another more fulfilling life. She did not speak about the cancer, about the lesions that peppered the soft skin on the back of his hands, his lower arms, his neck, behind his knees, and about how he often struggled for breath. Not many knew, she said, that her father was an artist. In Clark's hands, she tucked a photograph of herself taken when she was 5, a small girl standing beside her mother on the banks of the placid Hudson. Her mother's hand raised uncertainly to steady her hair or wave, clouds running wild in the sky behind them. She remembered that it snowed later that day, and there was something wonderful about how the photograph appeared so summery, when it was, in fact, her first memory of winter, her first remembered Thanksgiving. The photo was sent to him in Kuwait, or was it Iraq? The corners blunt and creased, where the sun of that hard country, whichever it was, had bleached the color to milky whites and yellows. Before Clark came Watts, who at 47 was struck down by the downtown bus at a crossing in Kansas City. Heading from the Holiday Inn to his car, Watts had his mind on a bottle of bourbon. At Watts's funeral, his wife, Lara, confided to a work colleague that he wasn't as likable as everyone made out. Throughout the service, she whispered bad stories about him, how before the christening of their only child, she discovered him leaning over the crib, calling the baby a cunt. He'd kept it up for an hour, she said, a revolting, rapid-fire cunt, 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 cunt. Even as she told this story, she knew, hand on heart, that he had uttered can't, 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 in a whisper so low she'd had to kneel beside him to hear. He was sick when he came back, she said, and she was sick herself, had lost a child, carried it in her dead, and later, despite the birth of their son, their marriage had similarly perished. They lived in a small 2-room apartment in Missoula, and his depression, his inactivity had poisoned their lives. But some things you have to set in the past and leave well alone. He had lived his life, and she had lived hers, each without regret. As a man of habit, his infidelities ran to